If we're talking about couples in business, which is who we help, understanding what's important, what's urgent, and focusing on the important as opposed to the urgent. So in other words, you're avoiding the squeaky wheel syndrome. But the other thing is just understanding like the boundaries between each other so that you can identify if somebody is being inefficient because they're close to burnout or because they're overwhelmed. Yeah?
Yeah.
And if you can go, hang on a second, let me be really aware of the boundary so I can see. So instead of me saying to you, Caroline, you're being really inefficient with this, I can go, hey, you're being inefficient, but it's because you're overwhelmed.
If you want more time, money, freedom, and have a business that's not reliant on you, then you're in the right place. Each week, Mark Creedon, along with some of the very best business minds in the world, will take you through simple, practical steps you can take to create the business you always wanted. From his own practical experience, Mark will show you how to work less, make more, and get the business you always wanted, the one that you deserve. Now here's your host, one of Australia's most sought-after business coaches, Mark Creedon.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Mastermind for Business podcast. This is the podcast for couples in business to help you to scale your business and spend more time in your life and less time in your business. As always, joining me in the chair is Caroline.
Yes, hi Mark.
Hello, Caroline. Good to see you.
Thank you.
As always. Let's talk about, in this episode, I really want to talk about the concept of efficiency. And if you're in your business and you feel like you're spinning your wheels, like you're super busy, right? But you're just not getting things done. It doesn't feel like you're getting ahead. And we hear that a lot, don't we?
It's very common. It's probably more common than...
Well, it's probably the most common thing we hear, right? So people go, but do you know what? I'm working really, really hard, but my business just isn't it's either making good money, but it's not giving me the time and freedom that I hoped for. And that's probably the thing we hear the most. My business is making pretty good coin, but, I never see my family, or I just feel like I'm slaved to it. I feel like I'm tied to it. And the reason that I set myself up in business or started my business in the first place is so that I wouldn't be like that. So I wouldn't be, working all the time, and that I'd actually have time to do other things. So I think that's one of the most common things we hear.
Yeah, and that comes at a cost. It comes, working too hard, not being at home, not getting the right things done. It always comes at a cost. And that's where, we really need to visit.
Yeah. But see, the thing for that is that I think that's a mistake. When I was young, a long time ago now, Caroline, but when I was young, I was always taught, right, the secret to success is to work hard. And I wrote about this in my book, How to Have a Business and Not a Job Without Nearly Killing Yourself in the Process, which you can get at haveabusinessnotajob.com. But what I was always taught was that the secret to success is to work hard. And so to be more successful, you have to work harder. And to be even more successful, you have to work even harder. And yet what we now know is that as a model is doomed potentially to failure, right? Because it leads to burnout, to frustration, to resentment, and to regret. Whereas there's that saying, right, it's about working smarter, not harder. But that's a really easy thing to say, isn't it? Like, you need to work smarter, not harder. But what does that really mean?
It's easy to be, inverted commas, busy. And sometimes it's a bit of a delusional ego story that we tell ourselves that we're so busy.
I work 80-hour weeks.
Yes, I'm very, very busy.
Badge of honor.
Yes, I can't do this because I'm busy. But I think at times we can give ourselves another 5 hours in our week if we were just more efficient with what we chose to do and how we, choose to do that.
Yeah. See, I think there's two components to it, right? I think you've just mentioned one of them, which is being more efficient, but I think the other component is being more effective. So we can increase our efficiency, but if we decrease our effectiveness, then that's not the right outcome that we're looking for. But, I guess the thing that we're talking about is that there's this trap you can fall into of just constantly being busy. I'm so busy, I'm doing things. Whereas if we're talking about efficiency, there might be things that you could delegate or automate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, a little challenge to anybody listening to this right now would be in the next 7 days, what's one thing that you could either delegate or automate? Yeah? What's one thing that you are currently doing? And I think an easy way of doing that, Caroline, is to conduct a bit of a time audit.
It's a great exercise. And essentially all it is taking note of what you're doing. Not necessarily how you're doing it, but what you're doing, how long it's taking you to do those things.
Yeah.
And it's simply just a notepad by your desk, scribbling things down as you go. And you will be super surprised with how much time you're spending on things that you don't need to be spending on. And you can literally just mark what you should be delegating.
So in the book Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martelli, he talks about this concept of a time audit, and he talks about, running this audit for a period of time. I think it's something you can do for a week. So if you're working a 5-day week, for example, I think that, every day, as you say, you just keep a notebook handy and you just make a note. And at the end of those 5 days, you look back and you think, wow, look at all the things that I was super busy on that actually I didn't need to be doing myself. So I could have delegated it, or I could have found a way to automate it.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's that old saying, if there's something worth doing more than once, it's worth having a system for it. And if you can systemize something, then you can create new habits and get things done a lot more efficiently.
Especially today, there's so much technology out there today. There's AI out there. There's so many really amazing programs that we can get to help automate things.
Yep.
And just make life more efficient and effective.
I want to come back to AI because we were talking about that this morning in one of our Friday focus sessions that we do every Friday with our mastermind members. So I want to come back to that concept. But I think really what we're saying here is this. If you're sitting there going, I am just totally weighed down, I'm just working crazy hours, I never see, what I often say, right? You never see your kids, you never see your partner, you never see your family, you got to hang a lamb chop around your neck so the dog doesn't bite you when you come home. Diving in deeper and doing more is not the answer.
No.
The answer is to stop and take stock and going, hang on a second, what's the stuff I'm doing that I actually shouldn't be doing? Number one, that's delegate. Number two, what's the stuff that I could be doing that I'm doing that I could have a process for? That's automate. And then we'll talk about effectiveness separately.
Yeah.
Right? We were talking about this morning though, Caroline, with AI and how, it's here to stay. This is not a flash in the pan thing, but it can create efficiency, but it can rob us of effectiveness, can't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the example we used, for example, was people sending AI-generated emails.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I see. I didn't quite pick up. You're going with that. I'm like, you got a minute. No, that's right. Yeah, because it is easy just to. No, let me remember that. It's lazy to get into ChatGPT and say, write me an email about whatever it is. It's not effective because you're not putting what you're putting into the AI isn't producing what you should be saying or what you authentically would be saying. Right. It comes across ineffectively.
Okay, so I'm going to slightly disagree with you. I don't know. I think sometimes it is being lazy, but I don't think it's always being lazy. I think sometimes it's a genuine attempt by someone to be more efficient. They go, do you know what? I can save me, and I do this, right? I use a program called Letterly where I use speech to text. And the reason I use Letterly is because I'm a 2-finger typist, right? So always wish I'd learned touch typing. So for me to use Letterly, but then what you've got to be careful with a program like Letterly is that it will then AI rewrite the stuff for you. Right. So I think that sometimes people go, I'm going to get AI, whether it's ChatGPT or you can use it on your phone now. There's AI generators on your phone that will rewrite emails for you. And I think they genuinely think that they're doing that in order to be more efficient. And it probably is more, and this is the danger, right? It probably is more efficient, but is it more effective? So we've got somebody within our broader business group that uses AI to generate every goddamn email. You know? The problem is that when other people receive those emails now, they look at it and they go, that's not them. That's just an AI-generated email. So the effectiveness of that email is just gone, out the window.
Yeah. I mean, I question, if you do an email like in this situation, do you spend time going back reading somebody else, like reading the AI-generated conversation that is in the email? Or do you just go click send and off
Well,
it goes?
I reckon you just click
Who
send.
knows?
Because the truth is, if you went back and read it, I reckon you go, man, I'm not sending that shit. Like, that's just, that's not. And I had somebody come to me the other day and go, look at this email that they got, an internal email. That is an AI-generated email. So what it does is it takes away the effectiveness, and it's more efficient, but it's less effective because people stop reading those emails. They go, I'm not going to read that email from such and such because we know it's actually not them. It's not actually what they think. It's not their view on things. And the analogy I used in our session this morning was going to a restaurant. Yeah?
Yes, cooking with love.
Cooking with love. So how many times have we been to a restaurant and I've said to you, it was okay, and your answer has been,
Yeah, it's just not cooked. It's not cooked with love, and you can cook meals at home. This is whether you're cooking just a steak on the barbecue or whether you're cooking a gourmet dinner. If you cook that steak or you cook that fish on the barbecue with care and pride,
yeah,
it's going to taste amazing.
Right. So that is being, if you can find a way to cook efficiently, like maybe an air fryer, efficient, right?
Nothing ever works in the air fryer.
No, I think that's a user error, Caroline. I don't think it's an air fryer issue. But using something like an air fryer, I can't believe we're talking about cooking, but it makes sense if we stick with me, guys. If you use an air fryer, that's efficient. If all you do is just throw a bunch of stuff in, or let's go back to a slow cooker, right? So if all you do is just throw it all in and go, I don't really give a shit about it, and that's efficient. But it's not very effective because when it comes out the other end, it tastes like it's got no love and care in it. Whereas if you actually think about it, you go through the process and you follow a recipe, or you put, the secret little ingredient that your grandmother gave you or whatever into it, you can still cook it in a slow cooker while you're at work for the day. It's still super efficient, but now it's effective as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've got to talk about here. So we're talking about if you feel like you're spinning your wheels because you're just spending too much time, just looking for efficiency isn't the answer. You have to look at both sides of the equation. You've got to consider them as being, opposite ends of the same spectrum, if you like. And so you don't want to balance. It's not a seesaw. You don't want to balance them out. You don't want to be in the position where you go, oh, we're super efficient, but we're crap at effectiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking on the Friday session this morning with something that Gareth mentioned, right? Gareth, hello, if you're listening. And he was saying, we've increased our efficiency, but we've got to be really, really careful that the outcomes that we're achieving for our clients through being efficient are as good as when we were less efficient internally. Yeah. So we've got to find those balance.
That's what it is. It always, the balance was. And it was interesting to see the different comments that we had in today's session.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah. So, all right, let's pedal back just a little bit. So we're talking about if you feel like you're just spending too much time, too many hours, and we're talking about now how do you get more efficient? And the little warning that we've placed there is don't be efficient but not effective, be both. But let's talk about how you can get more efficient. One of the things you said was a time audit, right? What are a couple of the other ideas that we can talk about?
Yeah, sure. Shifting your focus from urgent tasks to important priorities, because what we perceive as something that's urgent isn't necessarily the right thing to be doing unless you're a surgeon or, it's a life and death situation, then of course that's urgent. But sometimes our priorities are a less sexy thing that we need to do.
Yep.
So we prioritize, but we look at other tasks as being more urgent.
We do the fun things, right? And we think the fun things are urgent, but they're not. So we're actually not being efficient. But you know what's really interesting about that? If we take that approach, not only are we not being efficient, we're also probably not being effective.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Something else. What's the third thing we can do?
I've made some notes here. Creating shared boundaries.
Yeah. So if we're talking about couples in business, which is who we help, understanding what's important, what's urgent, and focusing on the important as opposed to the urgent. So in other words, you're avoiding the squeaky wheel syndrome. But the other thing is just understanding like the boundaries between each other so that you can identify if somebody is being inefficient because they're close to burnout or because they're overwhelmed. Yeah?
Yeah.
And if you can go, hang on a second, let me be really aware of the boundary so I can see. So instead of me saying to you, Caroline, you're being really inefficient with this, I can go, hey, you're being inefficient, but it's because you're overwhelmed.
In our next episode, we're talking a little bit about, we're talking a lot about being overwhelmed and when that burnout, when to notice that burnout. So we're talking a little bit about that in our next episode.
Nice.
In relation to, the prevention aspect of it, it is, falls into systems and acknowledgement and communication in there is also really important. Having the lanes in place of what tasks need to be done, having those meetings on how that's going to be performed and just communicating.
Yeah, cool. I love it. All right. So the takeaway, the challenge, the one thing that you can do in the next 7 days that's going to help move the needle for you is this. Conduct a time audit. Now, it's nowhere near as complicated as it seems. Just notepad and pen or your iPad, whatever. And as you do things, just keep a note every day of what you're doing. At the end of the week, stop and look back on it. And Caroline, once they've looked back on it, it would then be a matter of going, well, which of those things could I have done more efficiently? What could I have automated? What could I have delegated?
Yeah.
Right. And remember this, if all you do is just shift the needle by 1% every week, then, at the end of the month, I was going to say at the end of the year, it's like a 52% shift, but it's actually more than that because it compounds. It compounds. So just shifting that needle 1%. So for the next week, conduct a time audit. At the end of the week, go back and look at it. And then once you've looked at it, work out what you can delegate.
Yep.
Or what you could automate.
Yep,
cool. These are the sort of things we help our clients with all the time. metropolemastermind.com.au. We'd love you to like and share. If you've got some value out of this, please share the podcast so that we can help more people, more couples in business to actually spend more time in their life, less time in their business, scale their business in a way which actually benefits the business and the relationship. Looking forward to the next episode, Caroline.
Yeah, let's have some fun.
Yeah, cool.